Obsidion, City of Crime, Hope and Despair, Story Noir. Chapter 1. The city, a colossal labyrinth of sin and smoke, never sleeps, neither do I. My name's Johnny Snapshot Ferrara, a one-eyed professional photographer by day, and a professional pain in the ass to the city's mob bosses by night. I found myself at the heart of the city's rot, the Velvet Serpent, a nightclub known for its deadly allure. The Serpent wasn't just a watering hole, it was a den of vice, alive with the rhythmic click-clack of roulette wheels, the seductive siren call of the jazz bands, and the whispered promises of sultry dames with secrets. Drinks were flowing, cash trading hands faster than bullets in this godforsaken city. Smoky jazz curled its way through the chatter and clink of glasses. I was there to snap some shots for The Slant, the only paper still daring to expose the city's grimy underbelly. In the back room, I caught sight of Ronnie 2 times, notorious gangster and amateur art connoisseur. His latest prize was a stolen Caravaggio, its haunting chiaroscuro a perfect reflection of our city, light and shadow, sin and redemption. 2 times was grinning like a Cheshire cat, oblivious to the danger brewing around him. My eye, the one still good, was caught by a figure across the bar, Ruby, a songbird with a voice like whiskey and a heart full of treachery. Her lips, a striking scarlet, were in perfect harmony with the rhythm of the city, chaotic, passionate, deadly. I knew she was bad news from the get-go. The thing about bad news is, it makes for damn good photos. Suddenly, the wail of sirens cut through the club's rhythmic pulse. Red and blue lights flashed through the murky windows, scattering patrons like cockroaches. It was the 3rd Street Boys, corrupt cops on the mafia's payroll. I slipped into the crowd, making my way towards the back exit. There, a sleek black car idled, its engine purring with the promise of freedom. Behind the wheel was Sal, a former smuggler turned chauffeur, his past as shadowy as the alleys he drove through. As the sirens grew louder, the city became a symphony of fear and anticipation. I snapped a last picture, the chaos immortalized in monochrome. Then I jumped into the car, the door closing with a bang, like the final note of a jazz tune, the night's song swallowed by the roar of the engine. "Drive, Sal," I commanded, the word swallowed by the roar of the approaching sirens. Sal obeyed, his grizzled hands moving with the skill of a man who knew every dark corner of this city. We flew through the night, our car dancing through the narrow alleyways like a cat on the prowl. I glanced back at the shrinking lights of the Velvet Serpent, its facade reflecting the cruel beauty of our city. Sal was silent as the grave, a walking monument to all the city's unspoken secrets. He was the best wheelman money could buy, a product of his smuggling days. There was an art to his driving, a fluidity that made our desperate flight feel like a somber ballet. Barely noticeable, I felt a chill pass through the car. Something was off. I turned my gaze to Sal, his reflection dancing in the rearview mirror. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't meet my gaze, his focus locked on the road. Word on the street is 2 times got his hands on some heavy stuff, not the usual. "This ain't about the painting, Johnny." My heart pounded in my chest. "Drugs?" Sal shook his head. "Worse. He's peddling something else. Information. Something that could turn the city upside down." That's when it hit me. The Caravaggio wasn't just a piece of stolen art, it was a distraction. A shell game played on a citywide scale, and we had all been the mark. As we dove deeper into the city, I remembered the last photo I took at the Serpent. I dug out my camera, flicking the small preview screen to life. Ruby was there in the shot, her eyes locked on something, or someone, just out of frame. But there, in her delicate hand, a piece of paper. The pieces were falling into place. The Velvet Serpent, the stolen Caravaggio, Ruby, and her secretive demeanor. They were all tangled in a web of deceit and betrayal. And I had just stepped into the middle of it. Our midnight escape through the city was a silent film of flashing streetlights and narrow alleyways, punctuated only by the faint echo of distant sirens. As we dove deeper into the heart of the city, Sal's words rattled around my brain like a loaded dice. 2 times was peddling information, something that could upend the fragile balance of the city's underworld. The stolen Caravaggio was a mere smokescreen, and I had walked right into it. We pulled up at the Brown Derby, a 24-hour diner that smelled of grease and heartbreak. It was a magnet for the city's night owls, cabbies on a break, graveyard shift cops, and insomniac reporters looking for the next big scoop. It was the perfect place to lay low while I processed Sal's revelation. The place was run by a rotund man named Mickey, who had a keen sense for trouble and an even keener sense for scrambled eggs. He greeted us with a nod as we slid into a booth. No questions, no surprise, just another night in the city that never slept. I pulled out the photo of Ruby again, studying it under the dim light of the diner. The flash had captured her perfectly, the smoky eyes, the crimson lips, the treacherous beauty. But it was the folded piece of paper in her hand that was the real focus. I had to find Ruby, talk to her, find out what she was hiding. But I had to tread carefully. If 2 times got wind that I was snooping around, it could spell trouble for both me and Ruby. I remembered her set at the Velvet Serpent earlier tonight. She was supposed to perform at another club, the Blue Dahlia, tomorrow night. That was my window. Sal interrupted my thoughts, sliding a steaming cup of joe towards me. I nodded my thanks, staring into the black pool of caffeine. This was more than just a story now. It was a spider web of lies and secrets threatening to ensnare the entire city. The morning newspaper lay discarded on the adjacent booth. The headline screamed about another murder, another damsel in distress gone too soon. But buried deep within the pages, almost as an afterthought, was a small column about an up-and-coming local artist's gallery opening. The name was vaguely familiar, Vincent Moretti. A strange coincidence, perhaps, but in this city, coincidences were as rare as an honest politician. Vincent Moretti, Ruby, 2 times, the stolen Caravaggio, and the piece of paper. They were all pieces of a sinister jigsaw puzzle, and I had to fit them together before the city descended into chaos. With a plan forming in my mind, I left the safe confines of the diner, stepping back into the unforgiving night. I had 24 hours to connect the dots, and I wasn't about to waste a single second. As I walked away, the city echoed with the sound of my footsteps, a lonely metronome in the symphony of the night. I was ready to dive into the heart of darkness, armed with nothing but my camera and a stubborn will. And in this city, sometimes that was all you needed.